In this lesson, we're going to go ahead and figure out where is a polynomial positive and where is it negative. And honestly, this is a really useful lesson if you're going to be going into some calculus later on. But taking a look at the graph, when is it positive and when is it negative? So when is it positive is when it's above the x-axis. In other words, it's wondering when is the y values, when are the output values positive. So that's when it's above the x-axis. So in this one, it's between 2 and 4. We would say the interval, we'd say f of x is positive, and sometimes I'll just say it's greater than 0, but we'll put is positive on the interval two to 4. And I use open because technically it's 0 at 2 and 4, so it's not actually positive or negative at 2 and 4. And then f of x is negative when it's below the x-axis, which would be right here between 4 and 6, and then also between 0 and 2. We answer with the x values between 0 and 2 and 4 to 6. So if you're wondering what we answer with, strangely we answer with the x values, but that's when the y values are negative, is when our x value is between 0 and 2. And when it's between 4 and 6. So I'm going to use the other notation instead. I kind of like this notation more than it was positive between 2 and 4. So I'll put a plus there, minus for here. So taking a look at this, they're saying, what is the sign of the interval of f? Or what is the sign of f on the interval 1/2 to 5/3? So what I like to do is I like to do a number line test on this. So what I'm going to do is draw a line. And I'm going to place all my zeros in numerical order. And they gave us the zeros here. They gave us -2, 1/2, 5/3, and 4. I'm not really spaced equally here. Oops. So you don't need to put any zeros, don't put any numbers in between, don't put any marks in between. Just strictly put those numbers and a mark for each of those numbers. Don't put anything in between, that'll ruin the test. So what we're going to do to test this is we're going to plug in numbers, and we really just want to know 1/2 to 5/3. We want to know between here, is it positive or is it negative? So what we want to do is we want to plug in a number between these two numbers and plug it into here, plug it into our polynomial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in a, what's the number between 1/2 and 5/3? The number 1. Think about that. 5/3 is greater than 1 because it's 1 and 2/3. And so 1 is also greater than 1/2. So it's right in between there. So I'm going to plug in a 1. So f of 1 and just so you know I'm testing this interval, I'm going to say 1/2 less than x less than 5/3. F of 1 equals 2 times 1 minus 1 times 3 times 1 minus 5 times 1 minus 4 times 3 times 1 plus 6. Honestly, what we're interested in is just the sign that we get out of this. So in the future videos, I'm not even going to be inputting it like this. I'm just curious about the sign. So if you think about it, 2 minus 1 is positive. 3 minus 5 is negative. 1 minus 4 is negative. And 3 plus 6 is positive. So I'm just looking at the signs I get out of these. So 2 minus 1 is positive. 3 minus 5 is negative. 1 minus 4 is negative. 3 plus 6 is positive. And that's what we're interested in. Because from there, we're going to count up how many negatives we have. If it's an even number, then you know it's going to be positive. So right here, positive times a negative is negative. Times a negative is positive. Times a positive is positive. So that means on this interval right here between 1/2 and 5/3, it's going to be positive, meaning it's going to be above the x-axis.